Hi, my name is Beth Nehus. I teach in the computer science department, and Jana has asked me to share some tips and tricks regarding Camtasia with you today. I have a lot to cover, so I'm going to go over as much as I can in about a 45-minute window and leave questions for the last 15 minutes. So let's get started. I have sent out a PDF document that has slides that I am going to follow. So if you'd like to follow along, feel free to use the Camtasia Tips and Tricks PDF or PPT file that I sent out. Okay, let's first talk about creating a project. It is very important that you create a folder structure for your projects, because as you start creating Camtasia projects, you're going to realize that the more in depth you get with this Camtasia software, the more files you're going to be using. And as you add more files, it can get more and more difficult to keep up with everything. So what I always do is create a folder for every single video project that I want to work on. That way, next semester when I want to improve it in some form or fashion, it's very easy for me to find all of the files that I used to create that project. Now, when you create your new project in Camtasia, it is always named Untitled Project, and the file extension is .tscproj. So the first thing that I do when I create a new Camtasia project is a file save as, and I save that project file in that newly created folder that I built for that specific project. And then I already have everything set up so that when I start saving my project as I'm working on it, it'll be saving in the right location with the right name. Now, if you look on the right hand side, you can see that I have a folder structure over there, and for each lab that I worked on post-COVID, I created a folder. And then on the right hand side, you can see that in that Lab 34 folder, the highlighted file name lab34.tscproj is the Camtasia project file. And then you'll see some other file extensions. Those M4A files are audio recordings that I made from within Camtasia. And then the .trec files, those are screen captures that I used Camtasia to get. So everything's out there in this nice little organized folder, and it will be easy for me to work on next semester when I want to edit my video. Okay, so moving on, let's talk a little bit about recording content from within Camtasia. One of the nice things about Camtasia is that you can capture screen or webcam or both all at the same time and your voice, and then put all of that together and create a nice video. So in Camtasia, the record button is easy to find. It's up on the upper left hand side, and you just click that recording button, and then you get a pop-up window that allows you to customize your recording options. So that number one you see on the right hand side, this is allowing you to determine what you want to capture. Do you want the full screen captured? Do you want to capture just a custom area, just a region of your screen, and so on? Okay, the next part, number two, is the webcam. So you can turn off the webcam and only capture the screen, or if you turn that on, you will get two video recordings, the actual screen capture, and you will get what your webcam is recording. And then that audio on off button allows you to record your webcam audio as well, so you can turn that on or off too. All right, so when you're ready to record, when you have your options set correctly, you can push this record button. There is an option to just use the F9 key to start recording, and then it will count down and start recording your screen. And when you're finished, you'll have the option to click the stop button or F10. Now, while you're recording, if you mess up completely, you can click this delete button and it'll let you start from scratch, or you can always click this pause button if you need to regain your thoughts and then start recording again. Now, when you click stop, it's going to throw you back in Camtasia, and it's going to ask you, but before it throws you back in Camtasia, it's going to ask you to name your file. Now, this is the TREC extension down here at the bottom. I'm showing you that all files that you capture from within Camtasia, all video files and video and audio, end in .trec. So name your file a self-documenting name so that when you come back to it next semester or next year, you will be able to determine what you saved in that file. In other words, what you captured just by looking at the file name. Before I describe this slide, I want to capture some audio and video, pull it into Camtasia, and then use that to explain everything that's on this slide. When you launch Camtasia, the default name for a project is Untitled Project. Remember, the first thing I said that I do is do a file, save as, and rename this project as something that matches its purpose. So I'm going to call this one Camtasia Tips and Tricks. Go ahead and save that. And as I capture audio and video, it's going to go ahead and save it in the actual physical location, the same location as this Camtasia Tips and Tricks file. So I'm going to go ahead and click record and start recording some screen content. Okay, I am now capturing what I see on my screen, and so I can go through different applications and narrate them as I capture them. So here I am in a browser window. I can talk about this. For me, a computer science person might want to see a coding window. I can describe my program, what the students need to write, and then once I'm finished, I can click stop and go ahead and get back to my actual Camtasia window, and it will automatically pull my video and audio clip in. I am going to use the clip that we just recorded to describe the pieces and parts of the Camtasia desktop. First, let's take a look at the media bin. This is the library. This is where all of your files that you use in your Camtasia video project will reside. So when you record something from Camtasia or you capture something from Camtasia, this is where they will show up. Likewise, when you pull something in from some external source, this is where you will see them as well. At the bottom, what this area is called is the timeline. Now, in the timeline, you see tracks. So the timeline is made up of tracks. They're like layers. So if you've worked in Photoshop or something like that, one track is like a layer on top of another track. So that if you actually have multiple layers of something visual, a higher track will cover a lower track. And your content in your timeline works left to right. So what you can do is use what is called a playhead and drag it left to right. And as you drag it left to right, you will see in your canvas window, and this is the canvas window here, is this specific moment in time marked by the playhead. So you can add media to your timeline. You can add annotations and transitions to your clips here in your timeline, and they will always be shown here in your canvas window. So down here in my timeline, you see my video track and my audio track. I can edit these separately or at the same time, and I'll go into more detail in a bit when I teach you editing techniques. But for now, I want to show you that there's options to zoom out on your timeline as well as zoom in. And when you zoom in, this will help you edit your audio because you can see your inflections in your voice as you are narrating your clips. Okay, this magnifying glass fits everything into view in your timeline. So when you click on it, everything comes into view, everything that you're working on, or you can use this slider bar to zoom in and zoom out. And then this play button here, I'm going to go where I'm not speaking so it's not interrupting. I can actually play, pause. This will allow me to go to one frame at a time, next frame, previous frame. This will take me to the end of my clip. So a little bit about these buttons. These are my zooms, and then I will go into these buttons here in more detail in a bit. Know that I can add media files, different types of media, by clicking on this plus button and add them to or importing them into my media bin. So I'm going to import some files that I already have out here in my Camtasia Tips and Tricks folder. Notice that I have some JPEGs out there. Those can be imported. I can import multiple video file types, as well as these TREC files are my captured files, and then M4A files are audio files. So all of those types can be added here to the media bin. Also know that you could import a PowerPoint into the media bin. So if you choose to import a PowerPoint, what it actually does is it imports a PNG file for every single slide. So if I choose to do that, this Camtasia.pptx file, I'm going to get a single image file for every single slide on that PowerPoint, and then I can narrate those from within my Camtasia application. Now know also that when you work on these, they're going to have a default time. In other words, when you drag them down to the timeline, they have a default time. So the default is determined, and let me make this, I've got my timeline really zoomed in. The default time here, it looks like it's about 5 seconds. You can set your default time lengths by going to Edit, Preferences, and then underneath Timing, these are the default durations, and that was image file. So the default duration here is 5 seconds. You can change that for your project if you know that you're going to be pulling in PowerPoint images, for example, and narrating them, so you can make that a longer duration. While I'm here, let me show you that the default settings for the project canvas, this is what we're looking at behind us, is actually 1920 by 1080, which is high definition. And I like to record in high def because I can actually set my canvas in high definition and I can produce in high definition, and then there is no scaling necessary and I will have a clear, crisp picture. Okay, if you pulled your project in and you need to change it, you can go to File, Project, Settings, and change the resolution of your current project here. So what I was looking at previously was the default settings for any project. This is the current project settings. Once again, that's accessible through File, Project, Settings. You can also capture voice narration from within Camtasia just by clicking on voice narration and then start recording. As soon as you start recording, it starts capturing your voice. You can also type a script here if you're trying to narrate something that is on your canvas. So there's multiple options to actually capture audio from within Camtasia as well. Okay, next I want to show you that you can actually record from within PowerPoint because it has a Camtasia add-in. So before you can do this, you have to make sure that the add-in is enabled. So if you go to add-ins on your PowerPoint version and you don't see these icons, then the Camtasia add-in hasn't been enabled. So you can go to File and then Options, and there under add-ins at the very bottom, you can go to Disabled Items and click Go. And there you should see your Camtasia add-in that you can go ahead and enable. Mine is enabled, so there's nothing for me to enable. You can also see here, once you click on add-ins, that there are some buttons that will allow you to modify what you are recording. This button allows you to modify the mic. In other words, I want to either record my audio or not record my audio. This next button allows me to record what my webcam is capturing, as well as my PowerPoint when I start recording. And then this button, well, this lets me preview my camera so I can get a preview of what my camera is actually recording. And then also I get this button as well, the options here on this button. And the one option that I think is very important to set is this capture system audio. It actually needs to be turned off because this will capture any of the chimes that you hear in the background. In other words, when you get new email, it will actually record your audio bell. So I always turn that off. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that I use notes down here. I always enable notes because this is where I put my script. So within PowerPoint, when you start recording, you can see the screen that it's capturing and you can see the notes. And it's not capturing the notes, but you can read the notes. So this is a great place to place your script. So I always place my script in the notes. So if you don't know how to get to the notes, you can go to View and then Notes, and this turns them either on or off, but I always turn mine on, place my script here if I'm going to use the Camtasia add-in to record my PowerPoint slides. Okay, to record from PowerPoint using the add-in, I click this record button. I now see my entire screen, and in this window you can see that I have my actual slide, and on the right hand side are the notes, and up here you'll always see the next slide. So if I go down to the next slide, PowerPoint will only capture this area of the screen, and I can read from this area. So if I create my script over here on the right hand side, as I go through my slides, I am only capturing what you see here in the middle, and this on the right hand side is actually my script. So it makes a great way for me to go ahead and narrate my slides as I am going through them one by one. Okay, I have used the PowerPoint add-in, the Camtasia add-in, to actually record this clip to show you that I'm really just getting the left middle part of my screen, but what I can see on my screen is my notes, which includes my script, and I've turned on from my PowerPoint options the ability to not only capture my screen, but I'm also capturing my webcam. So if you want to do the picture-in-picture where your students can actually see you while you're talking, that is also an option from the Camtasia plugin that goes along with PowerPoint. Okay, I also want to show you that just because you've recorded your video with picture-in-picture, I have used the PowerPoint. You may not want that in all cases. So notice that I have, let me delete that. I have here two different tracks, and one is my audio and one is my capture, but you don't see the picture-in-picture. But I can click on this audio track, right-click on it, and do a separate audio and video, and I now have my audio separated from my webcam capture. So this allows me to only display pieces and parts. I can modify this clip and only display it part of the time. Once I show you some of the editing techniques, you'll see that you can turn it on and off so that it only displays on the screen part of the time or none of the time. And so if you decide you don't want it at all, you can delete that entire track just by highlighting it. Notice I have it highlighted, and now I click the delete key and it is gone. I can move my audio track down, and now all I have is my screen capture and my audio. Okay, I've added back that track that had my webcam in it, and I want to show you that this is sizable. You can use this webcam track and you can zoom in on it. Your resolution will be the resolution of your webcam, so know that you don't have to leave it here down at the bottom as a very small part of your video. If there's a portion of it where you want it larger, you can zoom in on it and then you can zoom back out, and you can use this as appropriate for your presentation. Okay, so the rest of this presentation will be in the Collaborate session that was live, and we are going to be continuing on with slide 9, which is editing video in that Collaborate session.